What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today once again, we're doing another player comparison video, this time comparing what I believe are the two greatest point guards in NBA history, that being Magic Johnson and Steph Curry. And the 2 years I decided to compare were Magic's '87 season and Steph's 2017 season. And I chose these two specific years because I believe they're the best championship runs these two players had. And I think as we'll come to see, there are some striking similarities in both these seasons. Now before I dive into this video, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure to do so, and if you could like this video, I would greatly appreciate it. So with that out of the way, let's get into the video. So first up, I want to look at Magic Johnson's 1987 season. This year for Magic was his 8th year in the NBA, and at this point, he was already a 3-time champion and a 2-time Finals MVP. But the previous year, 1986, his Lakers team was knocked out in the Western Conference Finals before reaching the NBA Finals, and they didn't get a matchup against the Boston Celtics, who eventually won the championship. So this year, Magic, during the regular season, he averaged 23.9 points per game, which is a career high, 12.2 assists, which led the NBA, 6.3 boards on 52, 20, and 84 splits. And at this point, Magic was really the focal point for this Lakers team, not only scoring, but also passing and being a facilitator. And at this point, he was the engine for the Showtime Lakers, and he was at his absolute peak. Now, this Lakers team, much like Magic, was also reaching their peak. They won 65 games, the most in NBA that year, and the most ever for the Showtime Lakers. And this Lakers team was stacked as always. They were a super team. They had James Worthy, Kareem, who was 39, but still effective. You had Michael Cooper, a perennial all-defensive player, Byron Scott, a great scorer, AC Green, a great all-around big, as well as other solid role players like Michael Thompson, as well as Kurt Rambis. Now, due to the Lakers' dominance, as well as Magic's great play, he would win his first ever MVP, beating out Michael Jordan and Larry Bird. So when you look back at the regular season, Magic had a dominant run for that Lakers team. But what I really want to talk about is how he played in the playoffs, specifically how he played versus the Western Conference. Magic versus the Western Conference teams averaged 19.6 points per game, 11.8 assists, 7.6 boards on 53, 13, and 80 splits, and that Lakers team had an 11-1 record, and they steamrolled the Western Conference. Now, as fate would have it, the Boston Celtics would also make it back to the NBA Finals to match up versus the Lakers for the third time. And at this point, the head-to-head series between Magic and Bird was tied at 1-1, so this is a very, very important series for both these players' legacies. And Magic would show up big time in this series, averaging 26.2 points per game, a Finals career high, 13.0 assists, 8.0 boards on 54, 50, and 96 splits. And the big highlight from this series comes in Game 4, where Magic had the game-winning hook shot. They gave the Lakers a commanding 3-1 lead, and they would ultimately win the series in 6 games. And during this series, Magic was the best player in the Lakers and the best player in this series, outplaying his bitter rival Larry Bird and winning his third Finals MVP. So all in all, a great year for Magic. He was the MVP, the Finals MVP, the Lakers had the best record in the league, and they won the championship. And I think that season right there is one of the greatest seasons in NBA history. Now let's finally move on to Steph Curry and his 2017 season. And Steph, much like Magic, was coming off a very disappointing year, as Steph's Warriors the previous year had blew a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals. Now, as we all know, in the offseason, the Warriors signed Kevin Durant and take the Warriors from an all-time great team to possibly the greatest team in NBA history. Now, Steph this year didn't have 2016 MVP numbers, but he still had a very, very good season, averaging 25.3 points per game, 6.6 assists, 4.5 boards on 47, 41, and 89 splits. And this Warriors team ran the NBA, only losing 15 games and a top 2 offensive rating, as well as a top 2 defensive rating. Now, where it really gets interesting is the 2017 playoffs, as Steph's Warriors would breeze to the Western Conference with a perfect 12-0 record. And in those games, Steph would average 28.6 points per game, 5.6 assists, 5.5 boards on 50, 43, and 90 splits. And this would once again set up a Cavs vs. Warriors finals, and at this point the rivalry was 1-1, the Warriors winning in 2015, and the Cavs winning in 2016. So the 2017 finals had a lot riding on them. And Steph kind of gets the bad rap for not being a good finals performer, but in the 2017 finals, he averaged 26.8 points per game, 9.4 assists, 8.0 boards on 44, 38, and 89 splits. And that Warriors team would gentlemen sweep the Cavaliers and win the 2017 NBA championship, only losing 1 game in that playoff run. And Steph was not named the Finals MVP, but he still played tremendously well, and he was the second best player on that Warriors team. So now that we've gone through both Magic and Curry seasons, let's compare the two and how they played when it came to the playoffs, where it matters most. Curry averaged 28.1 points per game, 6.7 assists, 6.2 boards on 48, 41, and 90 splits. Magic averaged 21.8 points per game, 12.2 assists, 7.7 boards on 53, 20, and 83 splits. So I think it's pretty obvious both these players were playing at an all-time great level. And if I had to evaluate who was better based off purely looking at stats, I think I would give Steph Curry the slightest of edges over Magic Johnson. And I'll put it like this. If I had 100 votes for either of these players and who was better, I would give 51 votes for Curry and 49 for Magic. So basically it is a tie, and when evaluating both these runs in their totality, I don't think that difference is going to matter in the end. So now let's look on to how they played in the NBA Finals. Steph averaged 26.8 points per game, 9.4 assists, 8.0 boards on 44, 38, and 89 splits. Magic averaged 26.2 points per game, 13.0 assists, 8.0 boards on 54, 50, and 96 splits. Now once again, it is very, very close, but I think Magic Johnson has the slight edge in who played better in the NBA Finals. Now one thing you always have to evaluate when looking at who had the better overall season is who had the tougher playoff competition. In this case, it really is not that close. Steph in his run put the 41-41 Blazers, the 51-31 Jazz, the 61-21 Spurs, who were without Kawhi Leonard for 3.5 games, and the 51-31 Cavs in the NBA Finals. Magic played the 37-45 Nuggets, the 42-40 Warriors, the 39-43 Sonics, and in the finals, the 59-win Celtics. And when you look at the best players on all those teams, I think it's pretty obvious that Steph faced the tougher competition when compared to Magic. Now on the flip side of that, you also have to look at who had the more teammate help. Steph during this year had Kevin Durant in his prime, a prime Klay Thompson, a prime Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala, one of the best wing defenders of all time. You had JaVale McGee, Sean Livingston, and David West, and a very experienced bench. Magic's Lakers were also a very, very good team, but I don't think they were quite as stacked as the 2017 Warriors. Yes, he had Kareem, but at that point he was 39 years old and really past his prime. James Worthy was a great, great scorer and a great all-around player who'll give you 25 and 5 on a nightly basis. You have Michael Cooper, a great defensive player, Byron Scott, a great scorer, Michael Thompson, AC Green, who were great all-around bigs. But when looking at the totality of that Lakers team, Magic didn't have as much help as Steph Curry. And I also want to point out that Magic was the clear-cut best player on that Lakers team. Now, when evaluating 87 Magic and 2017 Curry, here's my thoughts on who was the better overall player. Both these players had great intangibles. Magic and Curry were both tremendous leaders, had high basketball IQs, and they made everyone around them better players. You can look at Kareem as well as KD. Magic and Curry had a huge impact on both those guys. And if you look at the numbers, both these players had a huge offensive impact and were responsible for 40 plus points in nearly every playoff series. And I think that goes to show how valuable both these players were to their teams. And if I had to say who was the better overall player in both these runs, I would go with Magic Johnson over Steph Curry by a very slim margin. Magic was the better passer and facilitator. He was the better rebounder. He's also the better defender. That's not really saying much when comparing these guys, but Magic, he was the better defender, in part due to his large frame and his big size. I think Magic's overall impact was definitely more than Steph's, and I think the value Magic had to the Lakers team was higher than Steph's to these 2017 Warriors. And that's not saying Steph isn't valuable, because as you guys know, he's one of the most valuable players in NBA history, but I think the addition of Kevin Durant definitely shrunk his value a little bit when comparing him to someone like Magic Johnson. Now in Steph's defense, he was the better scorer, the better shooter, he was more efficient, he was a much better off-ball player, and I do think he was more skilled in technical aspects like ball handling and finishing around the basket. But overall, as a basketball player, I would take 87 Magic over 2017 Curry. And I think both these runs are very, very close when comparing the two. Overall, take everything into account, I would take Magic's 87 season over Steph's 2017 season. And some of you guys may be asking why I chose 2017 Steph. And the reason I did that is because 2017 is Steph's best ever championship run and arguably his best playoff run in general. And I'm not saying the regular season doesn't matter, but I value the playoffs and the finals over everything else. And I think how you play in the playoffs ultimately dictates how great your season was. So just to kind of recap, I think Magic had the better overall year. I think he had less help. I think he faced less competition. I think how he played in the playoffs was virtually even to Steph. I think he was better in the finals. And I think overall, 87 Magic was better than 2017 Steph Curry. Now, like always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. And I think it was a very, very tough call. But in the end, I gave Magic Johnson the edge over Steph. Now, if you disagree with that decision, let me know in the comments why. I'll be curious to see your guys' opinion as always. So that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.